Welcome to this service of memorial and life tribute for Luke Rachwalski. On behalf of the family, I want to thank you for your attendance here today, for all the good wishes that you poured out for them, for all the ways in which you have supported them in the midst of their grief. My name is Stephen Swift, and it's my privilege to be the life celebrant today, to kind of guide us through this process of honoring Luke and celebrating his life and remembering him well. The service today has been designed by the family and along with quite a number of Luke's friends. You're going to see a lot of participation and a lot of different ways in which his life is going to be celebrated. I ask just one favor of you before we go any further. If you've not thought to turn off your cell phones or to mute them, would you please do so now? The purpose of this service is to help us process the grief that grips you today. In our culture, there's an effort to deny or to avoid grieving. We're losing, if we haven't already lost, the critical and invaluable skill of knowing how to grieve well. This is a dangerous thing because there's so much loss in life, and it needs to be worked through in a healthy way. One of the healthiest ways that we've always worked through grief is through music. And it's such an important part of this day, even as it was an important part of Luke's life. In grieving over Luke, I trust that you will keep in mind these things. That to really honor him today and in the future, you need to remember him and to celebrate his life. These are not going to be carried out in just a one-time event like this. They'll be part of every day, part of a number of days, over and over again, like a verse and chorus, verse and chorus. So today we call you to remember. I know that there will be a flood of memories that come to you through the songs that you'll hear, the pictures that you'll see, the words that people will share. Let me just share with you a few thoughts very briefly to open up the service. First and foremost, I encourage you to remember Luke for how he lived. It can be so easy to remember someone for having died, but I encourage you to make a choice right now that says you will carry on his memory this day and into the future with appreciation for how he lived. Readily recall those wonderful qualities of his nature and how he lived, and use those to replace the anger of the loss that you may be feeling this day. And so remember him for how he touched your life and the mark that he left. But also I would encourage you to remember him in a very realistic way. He was wonderful, but he was not perfect. He was someone who had some not so great aspects to his nature. Even as he had many wonderful qualities, you're going to hear of this. All I'm saying is realistically remember him. Don't get carried away with any one aspect of his nature. It's enough for you to hold fast to the truth of who he was, remembering nothing more and certainly nothing less. And finally, remember what's lasting. He's no longer here in person, but there are elements of his existence that will never pass away. The love that he showed to you and the love that you had for him does not end with death. How he enjoyed life and how he uplifted you and how his music has inspired you will stay with you. So for all that he did in life, for all that he demonstrated, for all that he brought you in laughter and joy, hold fast to those things because they remain with you. And so today I ask, what are you going to remember? What are you going to celebrate? I trust that you will remember something about his character. Perhaps you'll even just remember that he was a character. And that's okay too. You'll think of his integrity. You're going to think of that sense of humor. You're going to share some wonderful stories. You're going to think of some wonderful times that you spent together, thinking of his good heart and the way he helped you and extended caring to you. Use those as a way of honoring him today. I have a couple of readings that I want to share with you before we get into the bulk of the program. The first is one that I thought was very fitting, and you're going to see why. These are not words that Luke wrote, but I want you to hear them in his voice today, if you could do that, as if he was saying them to you today. It's called, I Have Sung My Songs. I have played and sung my songs, songs of life and love and laughter, songs of sadness and trials and mourning. The melodies have covered everything from rock and roll to ballads. But still I sang, for always, always there was the music. My earthly voice is still now, but the song of life is not over, for I sing now the songs of eternity. This second reading addresses a point that we are all in agreement, that Luke died far too young. And that we even have to gather today for something like this is a tragedy beyond words. But Leo Tolstoy wrote these words that I think are fitting for us to hear today. He said, "When someone dies too young, we think it's unfair that they did not get to experience more of life. But how do you know they did not live to fullness? What a crude measure of life is this concept of time. The fullness of life is not measured by number of years. To do so would be the same as saying, why is this poem or this picture or this piece of music so short? Why was it broken off and not drawn out to the size of the longest speech or the longest piece of music? The measure of time or length is incapable of touching on the greatness of productions, of wisdom or of poetry. And it is even more evidently true that it is inapplicable as a fair measure of life. How do you know what inner growth this soul has achieved in his given span? Or what influence he had and still has on others? These are the truly worthy marks for the fullness of a life lived well." We gather here to remember the brief but full life of Henry Luke Rachwalski. Everyone knew him as Luke, an accomplished musician, poet, and beautiful soul who lived every day with passion. He cared so much about his family, his music, and his community of friends, and the size of this gathering here today is a testament to the lives that Luke touched. He was born in Vancouver, but raised in Victoria since he was a toddler, so he always considered Victoria to be his home, and it was. He attended Gordon Head and Lambert Park schools, and like most youngsters, played numerous sports. He excelled in both soccer and baseball. But music became his calling and his greatest passion in life. And as you will hear today, he had a tremendous talent as an artist that really had only just begun to blossom. Luke has a very large and supportive extended family, most of whom are in Vernon and throughout BC and Alberta. And many family members have traveled here today. Other friends of Luke have also traveled great distances to be here. And Morris, Terry, and Jack would like to thank all of you for making the effort to join in this celebration of Luke's life. We all know the story how Luke's journey last fall across Canada with his band Canvas, Jimmy James Fraser, Peter Keys Devin Vinot, and close friend Ruby Schwab in a converted old school bus. Although we lost Luke in body that tragic day, January the 10th, he will live on forever in our hearts and through his music. This celebration will include Luke's favorite music and some of his original compositions performed by his friends. At any time, sing along if you want to. Luke certainly would have. The lyrics of each song are in the program that you have today. Before we move into the musical tribute, we're going to take time now to see a brief look at Luke's life through pictures. So if you would turn your attention to the screen, please.